folks. This is Ronway's Gamgee, and welcome to Quick and Dirty Roleplaying. In this video, I'll give out a shout out to two instances of mapless dungeon design that I am thoroughly impressed with. Now, before I go on to that, I'm someone who prefers to play their tabletop role-playing games using theater of the mind over maps and minis. When maps and minis are used at the table, my attention is focused on them and not on my imagination, because that's where the game is happening. In order for me to immerse myself in the game world, I need the map and minis away from sight. I don't mind pictures of locales, characters, and monsters to help get everyone on the same page, but anything beyond that just pulls me away from the mental movie that is my version of the game world. With that being said, the first of two instances of mapless dungeon design is from Crown and Skull by Runehammer. The way dungeons are designed in Crown and Skull are as follows. First, you've got the name of the dungeon followed by a paragraph of descriptive text. Following the descriptive text are the major areas that comprise the dungeon, with a couple of sentences briefly describing each area. All that takes one page. Each area of said dungeon has its own page dedicated to it, starting with the first area the PCs start in upon entering the dungeon. It starts with the text that the GM reads to the players, ending with, on entry to this area, roll 2d4 until an area exit is rolled. This is where the mapless aspect of a Crown and Skull dungeon kicks in. You roll 1d4 to determine the location and 1d4 to determine an encounter. Once the group resolves the encounter in the specific location and are ready to move elsewhere, you roll the 2d4 again to determine location and specific encounter. For repeated iterations of the same location and encounter, if it makes sense for there to be the same encounter, then it happens. If not, ignore the encounter rolled. To find the exit of said area, you need to roll a 4 on the location die, which will then permit the group to exit to other predetermined areas of the dungeon. This goes on until the group completes their objective or leaves the dungeon via the starting area. This process of rolling for locations and encounters in each area emulates the party trying to gather their bearings or approaching vast locations from different perspectives. By and large, Crown and Skull asks you to embrace the chaos of exploring dungeon areas through this random determination, but also implores that the GM use common sense and set aside certain roles once it makes narrative sense to do so. What I really liked about this form of mapless dungeon design is that running dungeon exploration in this automated manner allows for dynamic exploration and encounters in a way that doesn't bear such a tremendous cognitive load on the GM. It also makes it so that no two expeditions will ever be identical. Last but not least, designing a dungeon in this way is much easier and takes up significantly less space than designing a dungeon with maps. The second instance of mapless dungeon design that I was thoroughly impressed with and that I want to share with you is from an adventure titled The Count, the Castle, and the Curse by R.B. Bow, who is also the creator of the YouTube channel Deficient Master, which I highly recommend. While I did say this dungeon is mapless, that's not entirely true, as the first page of the adventure has the map of the castle. Actually, as you can see, it's a silhouetted side view of the castle with a bunch of text boxes detailing the name of each area, its page number, and how they interact with each other with dotted lines and stairs, as well as the location of secret areas. It's a map, but it's for the GM, not something to plop down on the table and the players place their minis on it to show where they are in each area. Each area, starting with the area where the PCs start, has one page dedicated to it with the following information. So here's an example of what such an area would have. So first there's the name of the area, followed by a succinct description of the area, including everything picked up by the senses. The brevity of this description makes it easy for the GM to quickly digest and ad-lib to the players. Afterwards, there are bullet points. Let me see. Yeah, there are bullet points for all the other immediately notable features, which are written in bold. These can also be described immediately to the players. After each of the immediately notable features in bold, there's a right arrow, followed by more details in text. This indicates to the GM that if the PCs investigate the immediately notable feature, read aloud what follows after the right arrow. This right arrow can be reiterated if further investigation is allowed, which creates a Russian Matryoshka doll effect. In fact, this way of organizing information makes investigating each area feel like a point-and-click adventure game, which is exactly how exploring an area through theater of the mind should feel. Last but not least, among these immediately notable features are obvious exits from the current area. If there's a secret exit in the area, it has to be discovered through investigation. And also to illustrate like all the other surrounding areas, it'll have it shown here. So say you're here, it'll also have bullet points that show like what happens when you go to like this area or that area or this area, and so on and so forth. Here are the things that really stand out for me with this method of mapless dungeon design. First, it's the economy of words. The way information is organized for the details of these areas to use as few words as are needed, it's a thing of beauty. Second is that the GM knows exactly what information to transmit and when. Whatever can be investigated is already noted, and without the need to make skill checks to see if you notice the thing. Granted, you still need a light source to see stuff, and this adventure does use the absence of light in very thematic ways. But if it's there and you investigate it, you will find it. You don't need to roll and then, oh, I failed my roll, and then suddenly I'm blind or I can't hear anything. It's incredibly asinine. And those are the two instances of mapless dungeon design that I wanted to share with you because of how thoroughly impressive I found them to be. One for its automated dynamism, and the other for efficient and comprehensive layout. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, share, and subscribe. Remember to keep those comments respectful and relevant. Until next time, folks, take care and play to find out what happens.